What are the two trim levels that V60 comes available in today, right now? Momentum Inscription, very well done. There is a chocolate. Yes, so Momentum will come with either a T5 front-wheel drive or a T6 all-wheel drive powertrain option. You're very welcome. The Inscription will come just as a T6 all-wheel drive. Now, of course, there are some visual differences between the V60 Momentum and Inscription. And the first cue is I look out on the lot and I see these glossy black bars, or I see the Inscription chrome bars, and I know immediately which is which, obviously suggesting sort of, is this a little more elegant? Is this a little more clean? Is this a little more premium? Now, all of the V60s will actually have the roof spoiler, and all of the V60s and S60s, you notice, have this design cue of this really carved out waist. If you look at the car, and I think all of you probably saw today, it catches the light when it falls into this space, and so the vehicle looks like it's moving, it looks like it's longer, and it is, as we'll see in a moment, technically lower, longer, wider, so it makes it look a little more aggressive. The stance and the posture is a little bit more sport performance oriented than elegance oriented, and that is part of the 60 cluster that we're really trying to build there. The panoramic roof, I think all of you probably noticed that this is a very large roof. It was specifically designed for S60, but just happens to be the exact same size roof as the XC60 and the XC90. So it is still the longest panoramic roof available in the set and available at Volvo that we've ever put in any car. It does have a pretty far retraction, and there's just a very thin line of solid sort of flesh on this, so you're getting so much light, very Scandinavian, and I'll point out a couple of things later about that roof. Now, of course, the rear styling we keep with that C-shaped LED taillight design. We also have different tailpipe treatments, whether it's the Momentum or the Inscription, to suggest, again, am I sort of the more discerning premium luxury type of V60, or am I a little bit more of the sporty, sort of like rugged V60? Wheels, all very attractive, starting with the 17-inch that is on the T5 Momentum. If you want to upgrade on the Momentum T5, you get an 18-inch. You'll notice that this 18-inch then becomes the standard wheel, and then for the T6 you get the 19-inch option. For the Inscription, both of these wheels in 18 and 19 are absolutely stunning. Obviously diamond cut, beautiful, you know, the black diamond cut alloy wheel, so it really stands out, very striking and a little bit unique for Inscription customers. Now for S60, we add a trim level, which is R-Design. What are some of the differences between the R-Design and the non-R-Design cars? So the seats are much more bolstered in the R-Design. You're very welcome. S60. What else is different? Tighter suspension, lower suspension. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But ultimately, you have very similar options in S60 that you do to V60, meaning the S60 has a T5 front-wheel drive or T6 all-wheel drive powertrain option. The Inscription and R-Design will both be a T6 all-wheel drive, giving you the more powerful powertrain and that 316 horsepower. Again, if we take a look at sort of that front grille, we're getting a very good signature look, whether it's Momentum, Inscription, or now in this case, the black mesh of the R-Design grille. And as you look at the side, you'll notice that the greenhouse is a little bit different for each vehicle. And particularly as you look at that R-Design, you'll notice something else about the detail around the mirror. So these are body color here and black on the bottom. This is black all the way. So you might have noticed that even at the car, but again, this is sort of like the color theme that goes through, whether it's R-Design being glossy black, Momentum being the solid black, or Inscription being chrome trim and chrome treatment. Any questions about this so far? Okay, S60 wheels, you're seeing the same type of wheel pattern. Hopefully this makes sense to you, which is that if you get the Momentum T5, you get that 17-inch 5-spoke. If you get the Momentum T5 optional, you move to the 18-inch, and then the T6 standard becomes that same 18-inch, just like it was on the V60. The upgraded wheel on the T6 Momentum moves to that 19-inch, and again, you're seeing actually the same wheels for the Inscription S60 as you did on the V60, and then a new R-Design wheel that's a little bit more aggressive and sportier than you've seen on the V60 wheels. If you move to the color selection, I sort of apologize. The palette is very neutral, but there's still sort of a breadth of colors, even though they are all very sort of tasteful, subtle, etc. So you've got Blackstone, Seville gray, ice white, and crystal white, bright silver, osmium gray, this is all V60, and you also have a blue denim, pine gray inscription only, that's going to be true for S60 as well, fusion red, which is a beautiful color, and then two new colors which are being launched with the V60 S60, that's birch light and pebble gray. Has everyone seen those at this point? Really beautiful, right? Pretty simple color selection should make it a pretty easy sort of like order process for you. Two sound systems in addition to really our premium sound system, which also exists. Have all of you heard the difference between the Harman Kardon and the Bowers & Wilkins? We actually had Bowers & Wilkins work, well, Harman Kardon does too, but both of these brands work with our engineers to design the sound systems for the cabin of our vehicle. Everyone knows that, right? So the way the sound bounces and where the speakers are placed, that's all actually measured to create these perfect sound systems. Bowers & Wilkins also has the 3 different sound systems, so you can set it on individual, stage, or the Gothenburg Concert Hall, which actually literally is trying to mimic the Gothenburg Concert Hall. But technically, what you may not know is that when Bowers & Wilkins was creating this for the XC90, it still exists in every SPA car today, they built this open air subwoofer into the back, which is actually kind of like right by the rear wheel well. And so instead of basically, I always imagine like a boombox from the 80s, right? Instead of the subwoofer going goom, 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 and the motion and sound all having to push out, the air actually comes through, like outside air comes through the subwoofer, so that really the sound is being created by the cabin. So you essentially have the sound is pushed through at such a rate that the tone doesn't get limited by the box. Instead, it really is created by the whole car. So it's very cool. You notice that if you're playing something particularly with a lot of bass in this car, you don't get a thump from one side or a back area. It's really all there, and that's part of just the amazing technology. That's just one example of the technology that goes into creating something that if you're a true audiophile and you sit in our Bowers & Wilkins system, you think that it's quite a bargain, right? Suspension is, how much lower does anyone know? It's 12 millimeters lower on that R design and stiffer springs, and that's essentially kind of what starts to drop at the damping, and the springs are a little bit tighter. It's, for right now, standard on the R design. Steering, what do you think of our steering, particularly in light of the fact that you drove this morning? Very responsive, right? Very smooth, very intuitive, right? Like, we do have an electronic power steering unit in this, which you guys probably know we switched over when we introduced Drive-E engines, so it was actually pre-SPA, it was 2015 and a half models. And we moved to that ePass in part for lane keeping aid and park assist pilot, and to enable functionality of a lot of new technologies. Very, very cool. But it also means that as the vehicle goes faster, more input is required, so you're not accidentally crossing 4 lanes. Our all-wheel drive system, which all-wheel drive system do we use? Haldex Generation 5, well done. It starts with how much of the percentage of the power to the front wheels? 92%, but it actually, before there's even a fraction of a wheel rotation, believe it or not, it's like a telepathic system. It can actually interpret so much input from what's happening at the tire and wheel level and push that back to the computer that it can actually engage and push torque. That's really pre-charged that torque, and it can push it back to end up with 50% at takeoff. All-wheel drive, we have, I think, just as competitive a system as anyone. It's very low maintenance. It ends up getting you better fuel economy. If I've got a 3 Series client coming in, their first question and concern might not be, is this the safest car out there? It might be, is this going to perform as well as I want it to? However, we have to know that our safety is remarkable and absolutely stands out. What about here we are, we're headed out to, I don't know, New Brunswick tomorrow, and we need large animal detection. What does that do? It actually slows it down by 15 kilometers per hour intentionally. Yeah, so we want to be conscious of the fact that all of our systems, large animal, cyclist, pedestrian, all of it is still very unique in the marketplace, and we're still really ahead of the game. What does runoff road mitigation do? It puts you back on the road, so it takes me off the road, puts me on the road. It detects the difference in the road texture, and it will actually try to keep me on the road. The panoramic roof itself cuts out 99.5% of UV rays. So yes, you're feeling a little warm, you're feeling a little sunshine, but the UV is almost entirely blocked out. Now, if you close that mesh component, that cuts out another 90% of that 0.5% that's left over. So there's almost no UV light that comes in through the roof and mesh. If you look at this list, and I think really this list is to kind of help you understand, we could go through and I could say, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this car has Thor's Hammer T-shaped LED lights standard. It's got Spa premium proportions. It's got a head-up display, Bowers & Wilkins, Volvo & Call drive modes. And the customer goes, great, Celeste, thank you so much. That's fantastic. And what are they wondering? They're thinking, okay, Spa, drive modes, blah, 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 blah. So we definitely have those moments, but again, we have to be careful to not use Volvo language, right? And Volvo specs and Volvo acronyms and just give them this kind of high level. We want them to know what it benefits, what it is for them.